welcome everybody to Broward County's Asbestos webinar. My name is Ashley Robbins. I am one of the air outreach specialists here with the air quality team. We've got this, however, is presented by other members of the air quality program, and we'll get to that shortly, more specifics. Our website, for those of you that don't know, is broward.org/air. And speaking of that website, the recording of this webinar will be made available on the website. So not to worry if there's any point where you feel like you missed something or you want to refer back to that the recording will be available. And then there is the main phone number. So a few housekeeping rules. As all of you know, we are using WebEx, and we are, my colleague Levent, in the interest of time, we would like to keep participants, for the most part, muted until our question and answer portion at the end. However, if there are any questions that you have throughout, please type them into the chat so that we can address them before the webinar is over. We have a lot of important material to cover, and so we want to make sure that we're going through that at a decent pace. And I believe with that, in presentation format, first, after I introduce the AIR program very briefly, there will be Teddy will be talking about more asbestos, more general topics of asbestos, followed by Stephen, who will go a little bit more into the weeds regarding permitting, and then Leslie and Alexis will be covering green building, green infrastructure. All right, so our AIR program is comprised of 3 sections. There's ambient air monitoring. So as the name implies, this section monitors air quality, more specifically for ambient or outdoor air pollutants. Data is gathered from our 6 monitoring stations across the county to update our air quality index. And after that data is collected, it's sent out to the EPA and the FDEP. Outreach, as I mentioned, that is, among other people, myself and Levent. We're the ones that go out into the community to engage with them, talk about air quality, etc. And then, of course, the section of interest to all of you attending today is licensing and compliance, which, of course, ensures that entities that acquire and maintain our licensing permits, they're following rules throughout the county, and, of course, for any sort of demolition renovation projects and things like that. So with that being said, take it away, Teddy.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. My name is Fitzroy Bell, also called Teddy. I'm an asbestos inspector with Broward County's Natural Resource Division, and welcome to our 3rd annual asbestos webinar. What is asbestos? Is asbestos still around? Wasn't asbestos banned a long time ago? My building was recently built. Do I still need an asbestos certificate? Do all cities require the asbestos certificate? And why did I get a notice of violation? Our presentation today would like to address these questions along with many others. Next, please. The presentation points for today are as follows: a short overview of asbestos, asbestos regulations, Broward County Statement of Responsibility regarding asbestos, also known as SRRA, notification requirements, a few sample projects, and non-compliance. Next. Asbestos was most commonly used in commercial, industrial, and manufacturing. Asbestos is a natural occurring mineral that began being mined around the 19th century for its desirable properties such as sound absorption, fire resistance. It's lightweight. It also chemical and electrical resistance, and is quite durable as well. And contrary to popular belief, asbestos was not banned. That's one of our #1 questions we get all the time when customers are calling, why we still bother with asbestos. And it was not fully banned in the United States. So therefore, it was banned for certain applications, but asbestos is still around. Next, please. Okay, so here are the asbestos regulations. NESHAP is federal regulation, chapter 257, Broward County, section 27180, and we have 40 CFR and also HOSHA. Today we'll be focusing on the Broward County's 27180. Next, please. Asbestos NESHAP. NESHAP is National Emission Standards for Hazardous Air Pollutants, and NESHAP set the standard for demolition and renovation of facilities. It also regulates waste disposal of demolition and renovation, including collection, transportation, packaging, and it also regulates the disposal sites that receive asbestos waste. Next. Okay, like I said before, Broward County Chapter 27, Section 180 is what we'll go by, as we are in Broward County, and this is the regulation that we use in reference with NESHAP. Next. Okay, so demolition and renovation. What's considered a demolition under NESHAP? It's any wrecking or taking out of any load supporting structural member of a building, such as you see on the left. This building is actually close where we work downtown. It used to be the old riverfront building. If you see behind it, you'll see the parking garage is still there, but it's all changed right now. So during this time, this is what's considered a demolition. On the right, what's considered a renovation by NESHAP would be an abatement with removal of asbestos. Any alteration or any removal of any work that's going on that requires roofing projects, flooring, any drywall that's been knocked down, or popcorn ceiling removal. All these projects fall under renovation under NESHAP. Next. Okay, so before we go forward, let's get familiar with some terms. As you can see on the screen, ACM, asbestos containing material. We'll discuss what a facility is, or what's considered a facility under NESHAP regulations, any facility component, and also friable asbestos material. And friable meaning more than 1% and can be reduced by hand pressure, pulverized, and so forth. Next. Okay, so residential under NESHAP, residential single-family homes are exempt once they are 4 or fewer dwellings. Those are exempt under NESHAP. Condominiums, apartments, commercial, industrial, the schools, all are they are not exempt on the NESHAP. What does an owner mean, or operator? That's any person who owns, leases, or operates a project, like a project manager, or owner, a contractor. These are all persons we consider as owner or operator of a renovation project. Next. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at some other terms. Non-friable asbestos containing material. As you can see, non-friable means any material containing more than 1%, but cannot be crumbled or reduced to powder by hand pressure. Category 1 non-friable materials would be things like resilient flooring, roofing products, packet and gaskets. Those are all considered category 1 non-friable. Then we have also category 2 non-friable, which would be anything else like transite panels and so forth. Next. Okay, so if you take a look on the screen on the left, take a guess what they're doing. They're not cleaning for COVID. Correct, it's an abatement. Good guess, guys. So this is an abatement project. This is resilient flooring that's being removed and bagged properly. This is actually in a school. Before school started, they take on these projects when school is out. On the right, we can see category 2 non-friable. An example of this would be, you can see the gazebo, the roofing material on the gazebo is transite panels, and this is considered category 2 non-friable. Next, please. Okay, what is RACM? How does ACM becomes RACM, RACM as we call it? RACM is friable asbestos containing material. Category 1 or category 2 material that will be subject to sanding or grinding or cutting of any material that will become friable. Those are what becomes RACM, and also what's above the threshold to become RACM. We'll discuss that in a minute. Next, please. Okay, so the standard for demolition and renovation, thoroughly inspect. The threshold, like I mentioned previously, 260 linear feet, 160 square feet. That's on facility components, and 35 cubic feet of facility components. So this is a standard for demolition and renovation projects. Determine EPA's interpretation. Thoroughly inspect is a very important process requirement, actually. Next, please. Okay, so we want to talk about Broward County Statement of Responsibility regarding asbestos. This is a requirement for Broward County. We collaborate with the 31 municipalities on any renovation or demolition project. We ask them to make sure that any project that requires a permit, that they receive this statement of responsibility regarding asbestos from us. It's basically saying that Broward County has reviewed your project, and once you receive the certificate, it means that you've cleared all the asbestos regulations, any requirements. It has been met, and then you can go forward with that project, knowing that you have cleared the asbestos regulation, any requirements that we say. Next. This is a sample of what the statement of responsibility looks like. On the top, you'll see the information, the project address and facility owner or email address, phone number, as you can see there. Next. On the bottom half, you'll see in red, we have reviewed your project and it meets all federal, state, and county asbestos program requirements. So this is what our contractors, our owners receive once they have completed the process with us. And this is very important because this is where, there's no miscommunication with projects. A lot of owners, a lot of contractors may not be familiar with the asbestos program or the asbestos requirement, and this gets them familiar. This, stops a lot of violations from happening actually within Broward County. Next. Okay, now we're going to talk about a little about notification requirements. For demolition, like I mentioned earlier, for demolition, all the demolition contractors that's listening right now, as you know, that anytime there's a demolition to be, if you submit for a demolition project, a 10-day notification is required. It's the DEP 10-day notification that's required. And we also require an asbestos survey to be done. The survey is a requirement to make sure that there's no asbestos before this project is being demoed. So let me take a look here. That's for demolition. For renovation, like I mentioned earlier, renovation for the 10-day notification would actually mean asbestos abatement. So all the asbestos contractors there, you all know that the abatement is the removal of the asbestos. Once it's above the threshold, then this 10-day notification needs to be submitted to us at least 10 working days prior to any removal of asbestos during that time. And like I said, thoroughly inspect is very important. So an asbestos survey is always required. A lot of times the contractors say, hey, there's no asbestos here, or, the building was built 2 days ago, and whatever it might be. It is by Florida code that, not Broward's code, that an asbestos survey is accompanied with the 10-day notification. So that is a requirement. Next. Okay, so we can take a look here and see what the 10-day notification look like. It's from DEP. At the top, you'll see where you can check a original project, a revised project. If you want this courtesy project, it has demolition and renovation. So these are the boxes that you check. You make sure you put the information in, the facility name. An important field that's normally left out, that's important, is the building size, especially when it comes on to demolition or any re-roof project. We need to have that building size inputted, and the consultant inspecting site. A lot of people ask what that's, what's that for? That's for the survey. Who did the survey? The asbestos survey. And everything else is needed, facility owner and so forth. Next. Okay, so in the middle portion of this form, it's very important that the contractor information is there. As an inspector, we need to know who's a contractor on the job, not just not the GC, not the, it has to be the subcontractor if the subcontractor is doing that job. If it's a GC, then the GC. But we have to have that the person that actually did the job where we can question them, or if we have any issues with the job, we can ask them directly. Another important feature of the form that needs to be filled in is the scheduled dates. The one on the left that says asbestos removal is exactly that, for asbestos removal. The one on the right is demo and renovation. And like I said, demolition or re-roof is considered renovation. So you fill in the necessary field. And number 5 is also important for the description. For roofing projects, any roofing contractors on here, this is where you would put the square footage of the roof. If it's a flat roof, you put the square footage so we can know the total square footage of the roof when you're filling out this form. Next, please. Okay, so the bottom portion. Oh, actually, I didn't talk about the waste disposal side, but that's for the asbestos removal contractors. You need to put the waste disposal site, where the waste is going, and all that information in. What you're looking at the screen here for the asbestos contractors, the abatement contractors, you'll see where the amount of rackham here. This is where we calculate the cost, and make sure that you fill in all the information along with print your name, sign it, and date it. A lot of people forget to sign the name. That's important that you sign your name and you date the form as well, so we have a timeline. Next. Okay, so the roofing renovation projects. We'll speak a lot about this. Roofing projects are, it's a little bit confusing, but hopefully after this presentation, we'll have a little bit more clarity on NESHAP roofing requirements. Next. Okay, under NESHAP, the roofing requirements are under Appendix A. And the way that roofing works is, it's for roofing, flat roof or built-up roofing. So shingle roofing is not regulated under NESHAP. It's only for built-up roofing or flat roofing. Anything that's over 5580 square feet or more is subject to NESHAP. And also Category 2, which would be asbestos tiles. We don't see much of that now because those tiles used to be, they were used before. Now they're using new tiles. I'm not talking about the new tiles that's out there now, asbestos tiles. If the roofing project has this on it, then 160 square feet removal of that tile is also subject to NESHAP. And manual roof removal is not subject to NESHAP. So it depends on the type of roofing, the square footage, and the removal process. So there's three requirements there that sync up to be considered under NESHAP. Next, please. Okay, so we'll talk about a little bit about training. Asbestos NESHAP does require at least one trained representative on site when regulated asbestos material is removed. That person that's on site, they have to receive their refresher courses and also be certified from Department of Business and Professional Regulations as well. Next. Okay, and we can also see proper handling and waste disposal of asbestos, as you may know or may not know. You can't just dump asbestos anywhere or throw it in any field or waste disposal site. It has to be properly um, bagged and labeled, contained properly, transported properly. As you can see in the picture there, those are properly bagged. Next. And this is also, like I was mentioning, proper handling of waste disposal. It has to be labeled properly where the waste generator, where it's being disposed. The vehicle also has to be marked as well. So these are all NESHAP regulations. Next. Okay, here, like I mentioned, asbestos waste can't be dumped anywhere. It has to be at a permitted site, a class 1 or a class 3 landfill, active waste disposal site. As you can see in the picture here, this project actually was a big asbestos abatement project that was done in St. Croix. However, they didn't have a waste disposal site in St. Croix, so they actually had to ship their waste disposal, the asbestos waste, here to dump in our waste disposal site. So that's what you're looking at there. I think these are transite panels, I believe. Next. Okay, so now we'll talk about some sample projects. Hopefully everybody's awake and we can take a look at what a demolition looks like. This is very exciting, guys. This is an actual demolition. All the demolition contractors out there. As you can see, the containers there, and this is actually a demolition project in Fort Lauderdale, not too far from Las Olas, along the intercoastal there. So this is what a demolition project looks like. If you see the gentleman in the orange shirt, you probably can't see him, but he has the water hose and he's keeping it wet, which is important in demolition projects. It's a small hose, but there is no much dust. As you can see, it is being contained properly. Okay, so we also do we industrial demolition as well. As you can see, this particular demolition was the FPL plant. They were doing an upgrade, so they were taking down the old plant to put up a new and improved energy efficient plant. Next. This is what asbestos removal looks like. You can see all the workers there are in properly near PPEs, respirators, and gloves, and they're also bagging it in the required 6 mil bags. Next. Okay, this particular project is a DOT project actually. So this particular one is a bridge expansion. When they were, they expand the bridges at time, or even if they're demoing a bridge, a lot of time these bridges have class 5 paint. It says actually asbestos paint, and it has to be removed properly before any further work can be done. So we do quite a few of these as well. Next. Okay, this is on the left is pipe bursting. This is when we're replacing asbestos pipes. Normally the cities, the city of Davies, Sunrise, Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale, pretty much all the cities right now are previously remove their asbestos pipes when they're upgrading their infrastructure. So they need to put in more efficient pipes and bigger pipes and more environmentally friendly pipes. And this procedure here is actually called the certification procedure. And it was approved by EPA recently. I don't know if my colleagues are online, but I think it's 2 years or a year and a half ago. I'm not sure. But yeah, this is the only method that they approve at this time for the asbestos pipes. Contractors find it quite costly, or cities might find it costly, but it is the approved method at this time. On the right, you'll see just a regular pipe replacement. Sometimes they just need there's a water main that broke, and they need to just replace part of it, a small section. Once it's properly bagged and handled, they'll just take out that little section and replace it, and dump it in a approved waste disposal site as well. Next. Okay, now the fun part. Common violations. Okay, so common areas of non-compliance is demolition, renovation without a notification. So that's no notification or no thorough inspection, no asbestos survey. It could be incomplete notification, the wrong contractor, the wrong dates, not adhering to the 10-day policy, improper best management practices, or unsupervised or untrained worker on site, or disposal methods. These are common areas of non-compliance. Next. Okay, so this is a particular job recently where the contractor submitted a application to us. Say all they're doing is a furniture removal, and as you can see there, the furniture is gone. Everything else is gone, as a matter of fact. So this was a violation that we came upon, where no survey was done, no notification, no 10-day was done, and all we saw was an application for a furniture removal. So next. Okay, so for this particular project, we received a notification, an application of an exterior painting, and when we got on site, the entire building is knocked down. I'm not sure if they didn't like the color paint, but they knocked the building down. I'm not sure, how that came about, but at least they're using proper water in and everything, but they still got a violation because it's more than painting. Next. Okay, so this is some of the violations that Broward County we have here. If any of our enforcement people are online here with us, they're very familiar with this. Failure to inspect prior to the start of the work, failure to submit the SRRA application, or failure to submit a 10-day notification. So these are a host of violations that, especially when it comes on to asbestos removal, the violations can stack up pretty high if you don't follow these correctly. Next. This is for Florida's building code, 105.3.6, and this requires, per our building code, that the statement of responsibility is submitted to the department prior to doing any work. So this is in our building code for the statement of responsibility. A lot of my colleagues in other counties, they don't have something like this. This is pretty for Broward County, but it really helps us to keep a check on all these demolition and renovation projects, where we collaborate with the cities and we have a good understanding where nothing kind of slips through when it comes on to renovation or demolition projects, and we are proud of that. Next. Okay, so now we're talking about some license requirement, Florida Statute 469, license requirement for the survey, any abatement specifications, to conduct asbestos work. Everything you have to be certified. You have to be licensed properly. Next. This is for the asbestos consultant, asbestos contractors. Same thing. You have to be licensed by DBPR. as a consultant license if you're going to issue an asbestos survey. Some of the jobs that come in, and especially for condominiums, they'll the owner will take samples, or the owner gets a home inspection company to come in and take samples, and they'll present just a analysis of, there's no asbestos or there were asbestos, and they'll remove the asbestos, and then they get a violation because it's not considered an asbestos survey if it's not done by a certified asbestos consultant. So it's very important that when these projects are being done, the surveys are being done by certified consultant companies and not just home inspection. So we issue a lot of violations for this particular reason as well. X. Okay, so this is still some more license requirements, and they have to renew every 2 years and take the proper courses to keep their license active, and things like that. Florida Statute 469 has all this information. Next. Okay, now I address Robert Wong. Will come in and thank you guys. I really appreciate you taking the time to come here as well. I see a lot of demolition contractors, abatement contractors, roofing contractors, a lot of colleagues. We appreciate your time. And if you have, I'll put it on to Robert Wong, and he'll go through this with you guys as well. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Teddy. Going over the fundamentals, appreciate that. So is our ACM, asbestos-containing materials, if it's non-friable, therefore does NESHAP not apply, right? Well, it depends. If the amount of asbestos-containing materials is over the threshold amount, and we're talking 160 square feet, 260 linear feet, or 35 cubic feet of asbestos in bulk, asbestos waste in bulk, it may need to be removed. You must consider whether renovation or demolition activities will cause the ACM to become friable, drywall, popcorn, or even floor tiles. I mean, if you are going to be using power tools and you have asbestos floor tiles, you may need to remove it before you actually, do the demolition of the building. Are there any exceptions to the 10-day notification? Again, that also depends. If it is a building that is in imminent danger of collapse, and it's verified by, say, a city official that with an official letter that says that, if we don't do something, it's going to start crashing down on people walking by or workers, etc. Well, then we could give that exemption of the 10-day notice. Obviously, we would try to make sure that we have staff to be able to go and verify what is being done and actually witness the demolition. So it is possible, but there is a requirement that an official letter from a building official needs to be provided. What if rackham is mixed with non-asbestos containing materials due to the inability to remove the rackham, such as for safety reasons? Well, guess what? If all debris is considered contaminated, must be kept adequately wet and disposed of asbestos waste. If otherwise, you may have materials building materials, etc., that may be out there that could pose a risk if it's not properly, separated from other materials and put in a class 1 landfill, and make sure that it's properly contained, adequately wet, etc. So yeah, if you have a building that say is being demolished and asbestos has not been removed, well, guess what? All materials are now considered contaminated, and all building demolition materials will have to be sent to a class 1 landfill as contaminated debris. That is it for this part of the presentation on the fundamentals. I think, Stephen Benoya, if you're ready to proceed with the process in submitting the e-permits and statement of responsibilities, so take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome once more to the third annual Asbestos webinar. My name is Steve Bedoya. I'm the Natural Resource Specialist in the Air Licensing and Compliance section for the Natural Resources Division. Next slide. So I'm going to be talking more about e-permitting. So some recent changes, frequently asked questions, e-permits and e-permits one-stop, creating an application, items that will help you along the way, e-permits commercial applications, and the application is finished, now what? Next slide. So if you see this form, you don't want to see it ever again. We don't use this form anymore. We haven't used it in quite a bit of time. Essentially what this form is now it's been electronically copied into the database. Next slide. So all the various sections you see here are now digitized. So if you go into the, for example, the statement itself, next slide, into the e-permit system, the actual SRA statement is done all electronically. So when you go to e-permits, you're going to select your e-permit application for asbestos statement responsibilities, and that's where you're going to proceed to submit the application. Next slide. You have your information for the project, same as the form. So you can create a new project, select an existing project if you already have one to link it up. It's all going to be based on that same form information you had before, now digitized. Next slide. You have your facility, of course, which now is more detailed, giving you specifications of what type of facility you're working on, ranging from single family, commercial, all the way down to individual pieces of material that you're working on. Next slide. You have the demolition specifications as well as renovation for the project. So any specifics on what type of work you're doing, you can include that with your application, making sure to give us as many details as possible to make sure you get approval as fast as possible. Next slide. You have the notification submittal options, something we always recommend. Through FDEP, you can submit the notice of demolition or asbestos renovation. We provide that both in our initial submission option through e-permits, as well as when we do request it through the email system. When you receive a no disapproval, you'll get that link as well for the notice of demolition or asbestos renovation to be done through the FDEP database. That expedites your process, so if you do have asbestos removal or structural demolition, make sure to use that database. If not, you can always attach that downloaded PDF form and we'll be able to process it for you for the payments. And of course, if you're not available through that, you can also email it to us through asbestossurveynotice@broward.org. Next slide. And finally, you do sign the application electronically, verifying you are the owner or authorized agent for that application. Next slide. So next slide. Ultimately, as I mentioned, all that is now electronic. Since back in 2021, in May, we switched to a fully electronic process. We're fully online. This change to our process no longer allows one to obtain a paper certificate from the Government Center West office in Plantation or our new office here in Government Center East in Fort Lauderdale in downtown. So essentially everything is once more online, nothing in person. However, informational one-stop kiosks are still open to participating city building departments so they can provide assistance to submit the SRA. In 2022, waiting periods did change. We have increased to commercial project applications at 14 days and residential buildings with 4 or fewer dwelling units to 7 days. Municipalities participating in permits one stop were at 24. The newest additions are Fort Lauderdale and West Park. E-permits improvements project is ongoing. As of Q1, we simplified the sign-on process and elimination of the pop-up issue. So now you don't have to disable your pop-ups anymore. Next slide. So some frequently asked questions we get. What is the purpose of the SRA? So the purpose of the SRA is that ensures that building permit applications properly account for asbestos concerns and provides applicants with information about asbestos-related regulations and the handling of regulated asbestos-containing material, RACM. When did the electronic submittal of the SRA start? So as you notice on the last slide, we did make that full switch in 2021, but actually since February 17th of 2015, that's the last time we used that paper form. It's been quite a while. Broward County Code Section 27180B requires the SRA to be submitted at least 10 working days before commencing work. All submittals, again, are done online only. Will I need to pay a fee when submitting an SRA for a non-exempt project? And yes, there is a fee. A $50 SRA fee needs to accompany the submittal of the SRA for each non-exempt demolition and or renovation project at a single site. Section 27180B once more of the Broward County Code of Ordinance and Section 4023 of the Broward County Administrative Code authorizes the SRA review fee to be collected. Are all projects subject to paying the SRA fee? No, they are not. A residential building with 4 or fewer dwellings, not used for commercial purposes, for the Broward County Board of County Commissioners owned facilities and public schools, colleges, universities are exempt projects and not subject to the $50 review fee. What are the additional asbestos program requirements? There's quite a few, but Teddy spoke about a lot of them already. A notice of demolition or asbestos renovation form is required to be submitted at least 10 working days prior to start of the work for demolition renovation projects. This applies to all demolitions and renovations of all structures, installations, and buildings. It excludes, of course, residential buildings that have 4 or fewer dwellings, and additional requirements do apply for 160 square feet, 260 linear feet, or 35 cubic feet or more of Rackham. Will I be able to pay online? Of course. We have an online payment system. You can pay the SRA fee on epermits.broward.org by credit card or personal check. And once more, everything is done through ePermits. Next slide. Some other questions we received recently is on the add-on materials and joint compound for wallboard on composite involved in planned or unplanned demolition projects. So we have the Federal Registrar link there in case you want more information specifically. But essentially what it is that for any add-on materials, specifically joint compound, you are able to do a composite of the sample. Compositing gives you a basis of what that specific layer is going to be, whether 1% or more, and 160 square feet or more of material. A lot of projects will have a lot of wallboard, let's say drywall partition removals, but making sure to get those specific layers will give you the compositing result that then will show you that it's less than 160 square feet and non-threshold. Next slide. And of course, we do have some multiple control documents that were submitted by EPA that all dates back to 1994. In 94 and 95, there was a clarification submitted. And of course, questions were arised. And once more, EPA clarified once more that you can do the compositing on the joint compound layer, making sure to account for that single layer and not basing it on the whole drywall component. Next slide. So of course, you may see that on some of the surveys that consultants are running. And of course, consultants are able to do that for the survey reports. For e-permits and e-permits one-stop, the SRA process is required regardless of the year built and as part of your building department's permit application process. All demolition, renovation, and re-roofing permits in Broward County require the SRA. That's issued by the Broward County Natural Resources Division, which is us. All applications, once more, are done through epermits.broward.org. Next slide. So when you're creating an application, things that will help is a paper copy or web page with the Broward County Property Appraiser page. For example, this one's for Broward County GC West. That's our entry in there. So you're going to have the use of the actual property, the property address, the property owner information, the address in case the mailing address is different for some reason. So all that information you're going to be using for that application you're submitting. And of course, if you're doing demolition, renovation, square footages, etc. Next slide. Creating application. Where do I start? My city asked me for an SRA. Where do I begin this process? Begin at epermits.broward.org, register for an account, i.e. the user ID and password. The number of steps your application has depends on the facility type, the scope of demo, reno work, or the re-roofing job, the asbestos survey findings, or if you even have a survey to begin with. Single-family home applications do not require a fee or plans. However, all other application types do, i.e. condos, commercial properties, private schools, etc. We also have a YouTube link that will be available on our website. This YouTube video walks you through making a single-family home application. And of course, if you have commercial properties, you just have a bit more details on the reno and demo scope. Next slide. For e-permits commercial applications, we need the scope of demo, reno work, as I mentioned. It must be defined, and plans must be uploaded. The start date needs to be at least 14 days after your SRA submittal. Date, actual project start date must be updated later, meaning that you're going to be revising that project along the way as permits go through, as any delays go on with the project. You want to make sure to revise that project and making sure to keep us updated so we can do our inspection at the right time. If you are not removing asbestos or demolishing any structural members, you may begin your project once you receive your building permit. Next slide. E-permits. I created my application. What's next? So when you're in the e-permits database, you're going to see My Applications as your tab. So when you open it up, you're going to see the status is in review, fee is due, and approved. In review is obviously in review, Fee is due for that actual process. And if it's approved, now your certificate is available. Next slide. So once more, what's next? Once you finish submitting your application, pay the review fee of $50 unless you're exempt, i.e. single-family residences. The turnaround period for projects with no outstanding fees that have submitted all required documents such as plans, notifications, and the demo roof abatement fees, and the asbestos report is 14 days. 7 days if it's single family. Exempt. Review application status online. You can review it as in review, fee is due, or the approved status, as we mentioned earlier. You can view and print the approved documents online. The document is titled the Asbestos Certificate of Submittal. Next slide. So there's an example of what it looks like on the website. So when you go to View Docs on that tab that you opened up, once you select the project, select the application, you click on View Docs. That little magnifying glass circle button on the left side is the View button. That's where you can download the form. That form is then what you see on the right side. That's what the city's looking for. That shows you got the approval and we went through our department, and the city will know that the county approved that project for asbestos. Next slide. E-permits, common mistakes that lead to delays. Outstanding review fees or impact fees associated with asbestos removal, demolition, or re-roofing. If you pay a fee after the review period, if we already gave you a disapproval comment through an email, make sure to reach out to us. We don't know when the system updates itself, so make sure to reach out through calls, emails, letting us know you made that change. Not providing plans or further documents requested, such as the asbestos report, the notice of demolition or asbestos renovation. If applicable, submit the scope of demo rental work and asbestos survey. Again, please make sure to reach out to us, phone or email. The system doesn't tell us when there's updates. There's 14,000 applications a year. 28,000 applications a year. There's quite a few we have to go through. So make sure to reach out to us for any specific issues. The incorrect address or address not found in property appraiser. In the case of BSO, firefighter, judge, protected identity, please give us a call, inform us, send us an email if you need to, making sure that we know that that project is for someone who's protected, so we know that we can approve it without any issue. And finally, excluding the contact information. If we don't have your contact information, email, your phone number, add yourself as a contact. You can go in there, add a related party after you submit your application, include the applicant, include the owner, whatever parties need to be informed of any process, make sure to add them on there. Next slide. Some key points to follow when filling out the permits application to help reduce the review times. Projects with no demolition or renovation of existing walls, flooring, or ceiling in the scope of work do not require an SRA, meaning new construction. If there's no demo scope nor no renovation scope, we don't need to see it. As part of the review process for applications for interior renovations of residential properties with more than 4 dwelling units and commercial properties, a set of plans or a sketch showing the scope of demo rental work is required to be uploaded while completing the online application. For re-roof projects for residential properties with more than 4 dwelling units and commercial properties, while filling out the online application, include a description box of the size of the flat roof to be replaced and the way the roof is to be removed, whether using hand tools or power tools. That threshold amount will be able to let us know whether that project is regulated, it's going to need a notice, whether it's flat roof, shingle, etc. Next slide. Here is the contact information for the asbestos program. You have our general email, our help email, our phone number as well. Please leave a voicemail message if busy or no answer. That way we know we reach back to you. And go to our next slide. You can see here our projects that we receive electronically through e-permits. As I mentioned before, we receive quite a few, around 28,000 a year. So we have quite a bit of volume. So always make sure to reach out. We don't know what project you're talking about. Make sure to give us that e-permit number, SRA number, to make sure we can help you out along the way. Next slide, and I'll pass it on to the next group. It'll be Leslie. And any questions, of course, keep it till the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. Hello, my name is Leslie Sims. I'm here with my fellow staff engineer, Alexis Arroyo, here at Broward County. Because our team reviews many different kinds of renovation and demolition plans, we believe it's important to speak about just a couple different ways to build and renovate homes to minimize energy losses and maximize energy gains. There's a real need now to minimize energy losses in our homes and buildings, especially with the increasing costs of energy consumption and with the average rise in temperatures that we've seen here in the last couple of years in Florida. It's important to use our natural resources wisely and construct buildings with quality and durability in mind. Next slide. One way to improve energy efficiency is by updating interior features of our home that decrease the consumption of energy in the long run, including checking for air leaks. Air leaks can add between 20 to 40% of the cost to moderate temperatures in our residences, making it important to monitor their conditions periodically. To help with this, make sure to caulk and weather strip doors and windows that leak air. Also, make sure to caulk and seal air leaks where plumbing, ducting, or electrical wiring comes through walls, floors, over cabinets, or through ceilings. Also, improving the insulation in our buildings, adding insulation around recessed lighting in attics, crawl spaces, and basement rim joints can save 15% on average yearly to heat and cool our homes. We also improve the water. We can also improve the water system efficiency within our buildings. Wasting water means wasting energy, and installing low flow plumbing fixtures such as low flow toilets, shower heads, and faucets can save us more than 20,000 gallons of water per year for a 4-member family home. We can also improve the heating systems of our homes by installing tankless water heaters. Tankless water heaters heat water on demand and can be 24 to 34% more energy efficient than conventional storage tank water heaters. Lastly, it's a good idea to choose cooling flooring materials like ceramic or porcelain that are cool to the touch and water resistant, which can also reduce the energy consumption in our homes and increase our comfortability. Next slide. Another way to improve energy efficiency, of course, is to improve the functionality of our roofs and use them to generate the energy that we need. For example, optimizing the insulation levels and lightening the roof color. Re-roofing is an opportunity to update the insulation levels if possible to better preserve the energy within the home. And there are also energy efficient insulating materials to consider now, such as polyiso, which can be recycled and reused on roofing applications. Properly insulated reflective roofs can reduce surface temperatures by up to 30%, helping to keep the interior of our homes cooler. And of course, installing solar shingles. This roofing material can lower a home's energy and utility costs as much as 40% to 70% over the lifetime of the roof. And there's also a property tax abatement for renewable energy property in the state of Florida. For installing solar roofing, there's a 100% property tax exemption for residential renewable energy properties and 80% property tax abatement for non-residential energy properties. And one last thing here is installing vegetated roofing, which is a great energy efficient option. Vegetated roofing provides shade and aids in cooling the air around the building. Vegetated roofs also help protect the underlying roof system from extreme weather, temperatures, stormwater, and UV rays. Pairing vegetated roofs with solar panels, vegetated roofing can increase the energy outputs of solar panels by up to 15%. Next slide. So I'll hand this over to Alexis now, which will talk a little bit more about the programs and grants that go into making our homes more energy efficient.
Thank you, Leslie. Welcome, everyone. Overall, yeah, like what Leslie was referring to is for green infrastructure, better buildings equal better lives. Next slide. Here, what we're looking at here is on the usgbcs.org's website on the overall rating system in terms of the LEED certification. I guess the minimal in regards to points starts at 40, while the platinum certification is 80 plus points. The maximum point system is 110 points in terms of the LEED certification. Overall, this program was founded back in 1994. The acronym itself is Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It's the internationally recognized mark of excellence. It redefines the way we think about places where we live, work, provides building owners and operators within a framework for identifying and implementing practical and measurable green building design, construction, operations, and maintenance solutions. Next slide. Okay, cost effective. So the economic benefits. This right here was taken within a 3-year time period from 2015 to 2018 on some of the cost savings when they are in terms of LEED certified building. So I'm looking at here, just imagine in terms of energy savings, water savings, maintenance, and waste savings, just the amount that has been saved for the contractor and also for the homeowner as well. And of course, here a couple of key points here. You can either gain a competitive edge in terms of for corporate leaders, and also it does attract tenants. And although that these LEED certified buildings do require a higher rent compared to non-certified, in comparison, the average vacancy for these green buildings are about an estimated 4% lower than non-green properties. Next slide. And in 2018, the USGBC, they've founded a new program in terms that's called Lead Zero. They recognize that the most essential threat of our lifetime is climate change. So, in terms of these four types of achievements to receive that certification for Lead Zero, it's zero carbon, zero energy, zero water, and zero waste. It's fairly new program. It's about 4 years old, and it's by investing resources, tools, technology towards a positive vision, Lead Zero sets goals and commitments towards zero carbon emissions, net zero energy use, water use, and waste. Next slide. Here's a good example of one of the first residential properties here in the state of Florida that has achieved the Lead Zero certification, Hunters Point, Pearl, Homes and Marina. They have used a couple of smart technology devices along with some of their, I guess, contracted companies that are using and mitigating home energy management and storage as Personin. And yeah, that's one a good example. And they have also videos on their website as well. Next slide. Also, other certifications. These are in regards to either how to build a new home or renovating in terms of different appliances. There's also a voluntary program in terms of EPA Indoor Air Plus, and these are the associated links as well if anyone's interested in looking at those certifications. Funding programs. We here at the county, there are several funding programs also on our website that for any home buyer or small business owners that are either contractors that are looking to at least communicate with the client to seeing what's the best way to reduce energy loss. This is one prime example that's on the Broward County website in regards to roof repairs or replacements. So this is in regards to eligibility of household income and family size. If anyone does have any additional questions, there's the point of contacts on the bottom in regards to last names. So we do have that available on our Broward County website. Next slide. Another resource as well is the Broward Municipal Services District Revolving Loan Fund. This is for those small businesses that require any type of startup or micro loans or capital access loans. If you need further information, we do have that contact information here and also on our website. And next slide. And last but not least, some state and federal programs and some funding assistance for low-income home buyers that are looking to help with either home heating or cooling costs. There's a couple here. The Florida Association for Community Action, the Weatherization Assistance Program. This program itself is not online available. This one you would have to contact the local provider there that's provided here on this slide if you have any questions or assistance with the application. And of course, on a federal level, we do have the U.S. Small Business Administration website there for any type of funding, loans that require for your business.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for sticking with us. Levent, if there are any questions in the chat, I guess we can go ahead and try and address those first, and then we can open it up to anybody else that might have a question.
We do not currently have anything written in the chat, so I think we can go straight into people asking questions.
Okay. And now that, assuming Robert Wong, that it's okay with you, it might be easier. I don't know if participants want to unmute themselves and ask their questions one by one, or if there's another preference.
Yeah, no, that would be fine. We can just whoever first come, first served. Bob, is that you? We can't hear you.
How about now?
How about now? Yes.
All right. Well, I want to thank Fitzroy, Ashley, Robert, and Stephen for putting on this annual event. It's really, really important to us contractors. As a contractor, asbestos contractor who continually educates condo association managers and other contractors, and we've recently been fielding a bunch of phone calls as to this process. Whereas I understood there are standards that have been established before. There's been just a couple little quick changes. And if the questions I ask, it's because I just want to reinforce some of the things that are there. I also do appreciate the 29 people that attended. I wish more abatement contractors and community association managers and condo association managers and contractors attended. But to be clear, a permit will not be issued without an SRRA, correct?
That would be correct.
Okay. Two, I'm starting to see a lot of home inspectors performing asbestos surveys or asbestos sampling where they submit them to a laboratory and they get positive results. And they have the interpretation or understanding that that serves as an asbestos survey. From what I understand, you guys are not accepting home inspectors or just random samples as a certified survey. Is that correct?
That's correct, and that is a requirement of our code, the 27180, that basically says that the survey has to be performed by or in with a supervised by a Florida licensed asbestos consultant. Correct. So we've had cases where folks submitted to us that was not linked or signed off by a Florida licensed asbestos consultant, and that for us would be something we won't accept and could be considered a violation.
A violation. Ooh, very clear. Okay, and third, one that seems to be coming up quite frequently, and I'm getting a lot of questions about with contractors, and I really do appreciate that they're contacting us to help them stay on top of it and do things in compliance and accordingly. But whereas Broward County has its SRRA, a lot of cities, when applying for permits, are requesting their own versions of SRRAs. And I wanted to know whether yours supersedes theirs or if we need to do both in conjunction.
Well, what I can say, unless Teddy, you want to address it, but where we got our, authority to do the statement of responsibility regarding asbestos is in the Florida Building Code. It says here to 2017, the 6th edition, and it's 105.3.6, and Teddy covered that. So that is our authority. It basically says that the enforcing agency shall require each building permit for the demolition or renovation of an existing structure to contain an asbestos notification statement, which is our statement of responsibilities regarding asbestos. Teddy, you might want to add to that if you like.
Yeah. How you doing, Robert? Long time no see. Thank you for joining. As we know, you have always been a participant, and I know that you do teaching as well. You're out there with the associations, and you're giving information and making this program work the way it should work. So we appreciate that, Robert.
Thank you.
With the city, a lot of times there's confusions, and this is a reason that we keep this webinar, because there are city employees that's turnover and they're not familiar with the process, or they just don't know exactly how the process works or what's required. And they'll think that it's something else that's needed. Sometimes they think it's a 10-day notification and it's really the SRRA, or they're confusing it. But it's the SRRA that's needed. For all cities, the SRRA is needed. We don't supersede cities. If cities have their permit process and their permit requirements, so they can tell you what they need. But for the asbestos regulation, the SRA is what we issue as a clearance that the asbestos regulations have been they have been cleared from asbestos regulations, any requirements. So that's what we issue as a county. The DEP mandated our local program. So, but the cities, they all do their different, they have their own different requirements and what's needed and so forth. But I find out a lot of time it's a lot of confusion, and it's really the statement that's needed, and they may think it's the survey or the notification. But that's why we keep this webinar, so we can all be on the same page and we could be on sync.
Got it. A very thorough answer, and I really, really do appreciate it. This is really my final question. I'll mute myself afterwards. I really do appreciate you guys, and you've been doing a fantastic job, and we will continue to do parts on our end. But Teddy, I'm probably going to get some flack from contractors, from consultants, and from everybody else in my industry. But truth be told, there hasn't been very much enforcement in our industry. Now that we've gone to this whole electronic version, as you mentioned before, I miss this face-to-face communication and the interaction that we have. Now everything's done online. But, I truthfully, sometimes I feel that contractors are becoming just a tad bit complacent in regards to knowing that you guys have been visiting out in the field. Do we expect to see more enforcement from you guys? I'll go ahead and mute myself while you continue to answer.
Okay, well, I can say personally that since COVID, things are not the same. We're trying to get back to the same where we're out there but honestly, I tell this to contractors, associations, especially associations, all the time, that it's not just our responsibility. There's so much 2-3 inspectors can do with all 31 municipalities that we have to deal with. Broward County is a large county, and we can't see every project. We can't be there for everything. So just like you may give me a call and say, hey, Teddy, I saw this going on, or they're not doing it correctly. This is what we need. We need a community involvement. We need people to say, give us a call and when we do get that, not as much as I think we should, but once in a while, that's the only way we can all come together as a community to do some enforcement and make sure we're all protected. But we are trying to get back on track with with inspections and being out there. And I think, it's coming along. It's coming along. So if you can continue spread the word to your fellow contractors out there. You can give them our number, and we have a process of issuing complaints, or if just call me on the phone. You have my number, and I can run out there and take a look. So, that's the best answer I can give you at this time. That's the way we have to see if we can tackle it that way.
Hey, Teddy, let me add something to that. Bob, I don't know if you heard the number earlier that Stephen mentioned, but in the year 2021, we did 28,000 statement of responsibility regarding asbestos. Okay, that's a huge number. Of the 28,000, about 6,000 of them were non-exempt. So about 22,000 of them were single-family home, 4 dwellings or less. So guess what? All these people would have gotten some kind of all 28,000 would have gotten some kind of notice that they would have to use either follow the NESHAP's procedures, which means they have to provide a notice, a scope of work, asbestos survey. But guess what? Also, the other 22,000 people get a notice that says that they just can't use any fly-by-night contractor. They'll have to use someone who's licensed unless they want to do it themselves. The building code, Broward County Edition, allows people to do work on their own home. No problem. But if you're going to hire somebody, it needs to be a licensed person. So we are providing the methodology, the process to make sure that people are educated and know what to do. And 28,000 is a big number. Okay, so we are reaching out somehow to a lot of folks who are in the process of either demolishing or renovating their buildings. Hope that helps answer your question.
It does. Thank you guys very, very much. I really do appreciate the insightful advice. We will continue to educate other people and inform them as to what's going on. Fitzroy, I appreciate you. Richard, I appreciate you. Ashley, we have yet to meet, but I appreciate you. Hopefully in the near future, we can get together and talk to each other in person and avoid this whole electronic communication, because you guys are wonderful people, and I know you're trying your best, and we really appreciate you.
Thank you, Robert. Thanks a lot.
If there's any other questions, we still have about 15 minutes, at least if we need them. If anyone else would like to unmute and ask away.
Ashley, as an educator, I can eat up 15 minutes of questions. So if nobody has any, I'll keep going, because there is a hunger and desire from contractors to try to find some sort of direction as to what's going on. But truth be told, from my perspective, if there's any questions I do have, it's pretty much not for the general public, but it's kind of site-specific, detail-orientated stuff that we come across on every single project. So, just reviewing my questions here. It's kind of all I got now. So I'll leave the forum for anybody else that wants to ask. So I appreciate you guys.
Or Levent, is there still nothing in the chat? I think this is more of an unmute and talk sort of group.
Yeah,
It's
no
fine.
one's written anything in the chat.
All right. Well, again, to reiterate, if there's anything that occurs to you, our contact information was listed at the beginning of this presentation, and I think another time or two throughout. We will work on getting this recording on broward.org/air as soon as we are able to, as well as I believe also that YouTube video that Stephen mentioned. That offers kind of more step-by-step guidance. But if that's all for
Ashley, let me
Yeah,
just
go ahead.
offer this. Perhaps when you guys put the presentation online, maybe have a spot where folks can ask questions. Maybe all the questions are not formulated right now, but maybe after they review it again, see it one more time, they may have some questions that may apply to whatever questions that they may have, and they can put the question in, and then we'll do our best to answer them as quickly as we can.
That might not be possible via the website, but we can talk about the best way to do that moving
If you just
forward.
do it via email, we can have the email contact there that will
Yes.
go straight to us.
One more quick input. I think we would have got more attendance had we have not had less than 24 hours to respond and prepare ourselves for this meeting. So with a little bit more advance notice, I could have definitely have reached out to many other entities within our trade, and they would have been glad to have attended.
Thank you, Bob. Good comment. Now, just remember, though, we'll have this presentation, and folks will have be able to see it, and then see the information and ask us questions afterwards. And one of the quickest ways to reach us too is we tell folks, if you have a question, you can ask us at asbestoshelp@broward.org, and then we try to answer that questions as quickly as we can.
To add on to, because that is a good point, on our Natural Resources Division page, there is a link of upcoming events. The webinar was posted on there, but of course we won't expect people to be checking our website constantly. The other option could be to follow us. We had been posting it for any of you that may have social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Broward Environment, or Broward ENB, depending on the individual platform, because we'd been putting out in the days leading up to this webinar, just so that, as you said, a very good point, to have more of a heads up so that more people can attend. All right, unless either Robert, I guess, at this point, if there's nothing else to add from you guys or from anybody else, then to be respectful of everyone's time, I think we might just call it a little early this year, which is completely fine. Thank you all, presenters and attendees alike.
Thank you. Stay well, everybody. Be safe.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.